Well, just like what we do after a game, we digest it and look at it from every angle. A couple things stood out. Obviously, still pleased, found a way to win the game. It was competitive. Credit to Florida Atlantic. They pushed us in a lot of different ways. Schematically, physically, had some good players. Contested. Came down to the end, and like I said, we finished really, really well. I thought the crowd again was awesome. Impacted the thing. Really appreciate everyone's energy in coming out, especially that student section. On our end, definitely looking to clean some things up offensively. I'll start there. It's 11-man football, and we had too many times whether just missed assignment, misidentification, and so we're not IDing the front correctly. We got too many free hitters in the run game. Got to find ways to be more efficient there. In the pass game, so much is about detail. I did think the protection, for the most part, showed up pretty well. I thought, we had time to make throws. The pocket was clean a lot of the time. Not all, but a lot of it. So I was pleased with that part. And then it comes down to, taking care of the ball in red zone efficiency. We just wasn't where we need to be. And we got to take a step there. And excited about the opportunity to kind of dive in and improve. Defensively, a lot to like. We were on the same page. Communication throughout the game was solid. Thought they played with great effort, running the ball, tackling for our first game. A lot of good tackling, not a bunch of missed tackles. Guys playing with leverage. It just comes down, we have to be able to finish plays with greater awareness, just smarter the penalty side. And again, it's first games and guys are flying around, but we got to do it at a higher level. I think we gave 6 free first downs, 9 penalties on defense, which it's going to get us beat. Special teams wise, that pin punt changed the game. Eckley gets it down, we cover it really well, gets the ball on one, turns into a safety, turns into a great field position, so that was awesome to see. In general, though, I think our coverage can get cleaned up. I think we got exposed. I know we had a long return that we got a penalty on, but we're not in great lanes. We got to clean up our coverage. We can get exposed there, so that'll be a point of emphasis kind of this week in practice. I've told you guys on the injury side, we're not going to day in and day out be talking about a ton, but we did have a couple of guys go down that'll be longer term injuries. Alante Brown will be, hopeful to maybe November coming back. Khalil Majid, doubtful to come back. Dylan Tatum, at least a couple of months, if not for the year. So those 3 guys, which is a blow. I mean, all 3 of them contributing and playing awesome. Feel really bad for them, but they are longer-term injuries. And always wanted to be up front with that part. Transitioning into game 2 and start Big Ten play. We're excited about it. Got to go on the road and play a really good opponent. These guys have been multiple bowl games the last few years. They got talent on both sides of the ball. They scored a bunch in week 1. And so Coach Loxley got a bunch of respect. This guy knows how to coach football, and that roster's got a lot of good players. And so we've got our work cut out for us coming this Saturday. With that, I'll take some questions.
Hey, John, around here. Does it help at all when your game 2 is a Big Ten game on the road? I mean, versus staying at home playing like an ICS opponent, as far as increasing the sense of urgency for that improvement.
Right. Yeah. You asked the challenge. I think it's the schedule is what it is. I think from game 1 to game 2, we were going to have some serious sense of urgency to get better after game 1. We did learn a bunch about this team. First experience of this team in all 3 phases, individual players. We learned a bunch. And now, kind of where they're at, what they need to take a step on. So that approach, I don't think would have changed at all. It just does. You get a big time opponent that's got a bunch of good players. It's a real challenge on the road.
Staying with that, open up Big Ten play on the road, can you share a little bit about the differences and the similarities in preparation, even the nuances when you have to get a team and go on the road and also kind of come together as one?
Yeah, the differences on the road are going to go through the travel part, which will be the first time for us, right? So the day before is going to be different than it was last week. Locker rooms, crowd noise, kind of going on our own. We do expect to see Spartans out there in that part of the country, but it's not going to be like it was Friday night in a packed house with the energy you're getting from our stadium crowd. It's going to be different.
All right, thank you.
So then obviously those 2 injuries with Dylan and Khalil in the secondary, you mentioned that being a big blow. How do you kind of progress forward and kind of with Malik coming back 2, I mean, obviously suspended, how much of a difference does he make? Actually, not suspended, he was ejected. But how much of a difference does he make, I mean, keeping those guys healthy?
Yeah, we're gonna need to, I mean, because that's a position that you need to have multiple bodies to play. Especially when you think about DT's in, flexibility to play nickel, to play safety, she could play some corner a little bit last year, so he has some position flexibility that now we don't have. So yeah, getting Malik back, huge, and Kai always had a nice game, and we've got some, answers, but it's always gonna be the next man up. This game's a physical game, and different positions, you're gonna take a blow or two, and you gotta have the next guy to step in.
Jonathan, the last 2 years, I think your Oregon State teams averaged 5.6 penalties a game, something like that, less than 60 yards. As you look back now, having analyzed it, what caused that, and the late hits on some of the slides, how do you coach that?
Yeah, we gotta do a better job coaching it, and again, it's not just Michigan State. I pulled a couple of clips of the team on Sunday that's across the country that showed up in game 1, and so we've got to be able to, we're not going to slow down in how we play on defense, but we got to have some awareness around the quarterback, around the sideline, understand the rule, and make some tweaks to maybe how we approach the quarterback in regards to low versus high. So that'll be some emphasis this week.
Over here, you mentioned collective protection. I'm wondering what you saw from running lanes created and your assessment of the 2 backs.
Run game wasn't good enough. Just the efficiency of it. We had a long run on the one, but we've got to identify it correctly to start, more consistently correctly. And then we got to get some movement. And so we've got to create some more space for those guys to go. I did think K-Ron carried the ball pretty well, did some good stuff. Nate did some good stuff when there was more to run through. And sometimes we're gonna have that. Our style of play, they're gonna load the box at times, and there's gonna be some 2-yard runs, 3-yard runs. We just had way too many of them. We need to get more in the 6, 8. It starts with identification and some movement up front.
You had a number of guys on defense that created pressure, and I'm wondering anybody when you watched it back that really stood out that you thought, boy, this was nice.
Quintale, I mean, this guy loved it, and we said we were going to play a lot of guys, but he wasn't going to get a ton of snaps, and the way the thing went, he did end up impacting the game in the second half in particular. That guy showed up in a huge way when it was critical times. They're moving the ball in the red zone, he gets a huge sack on 3rd down, obviously ends the game on the 4th down as an incompletion. He created the pressure, so was pleased with him along with others up front.
Jonathan, I noticed your first walk to the stadium and your first run out of the tunnel, you let the players take the lead. You were a little further back in both of those settings. I wonder if you could talk about the mindset behind that.
Yeah, we did a little bit of, we want to be player-led around here. I actually spoke to the team, giving them the heads up. That's how, because we walk through all the pregame and how this takes place. I also love the fact that the strength coach, who spends the most time with them, is up in front of that thing. That those guys, the summer hours, the sweat that goes in. So that's the logic a little bit. We're going to be player-led, let these guys go and run it out. Me running first, I'm the slowest one running out there, and so I don't think that helps things either.
Obviously, Coach, Aiden was frustrated with his performance since Friday night. What have you seen from him in terms of his attitude, his mood? Has he flushed it? Has he moved on?
I think he's a competitive kid, and it was frustrating for him. And I thought, we practiced lightly yesterday, and he was bouncing around, understands that we got to learn, and he's all about doing that. He's aware too, it's not just all on him, but he's got some plays that he can make. I thought he got hit pretty good on the one. We got a crosser wide open, he gets hit, we don't complete the ball. He bounced back up and responded, bounced back from that. I expect him to bounce back this week.
Just wondering, what was your first experience running into that stadium? You talked about the energy in general, but what do you remember about entering that stadium for the first time? Anything strike you?
Well, I've always liked Thunderstruck. I mean, even growing up, so that big playing and going, smoke, energy, the band's right there. It was fun.
I'm also wondering, I know you can't change the rule in mid-season and you got a coach for it, but in your opinion, does that rule in the off-season need to be revisited? Because defensive players are in midair and quarterbacks all over are sliding down and you can't stop yourself and your helmets are going to hit. Does that rule need to be revisited in your mind?
They could revisit and look at it again. I'm not here to say it needs to get totally changed. It's a tough play. I mean, that immediate instance where he's going full speed to turning into defenseless, it's tough. And the reality, I do think proper way to tackle it oftentimes on ball carriers is to go low, cut their motor, we want to tackle their legs. Well, when you're doing that, and then all of a sudden immediately he goes down, you're gonna run into some of these things. So, it's a tough play. We gotta continue to coach it and gain awareness from it, and our guys will. But I'm not here to say flat out the rule needs to be changed tomorrow.
And Jonathan, you were talking before the season about having depth at receiver and you guys stepping up. Nobody was able to record you 30 yards receiving. I don't know how often that happens in games you've coached, but I guess what are you looking from that group game 1 to 2 to really establish?
Yeah, details, those guys, they play a little more man coverage that we saw last week. We gotta be able to separate, but details of where I split, how far I go on my depth, I gotta be able to separate man coverage with some stair step techniques, things like that. I'm confident in that group. Again, week 1 to week 2 to week 3, we gotta continually improve. We've got some talent in that room, and we gotta take a step in our passing.
Maryland presents different challenges than FAU does offensively, especially with the way that they can move the ball, through the air. Just what are you looking for from your defense to be able to, I guess, present this new challenge?
Yeah, it is a challenge because they've got talent outside that can make you miss. Quarterback with a strong arm who's a willing runner. And Coach Alexis has done it at a high level on that offensive side for a long time. So it's a serious challenge, different than week 1, right? And just in the passing game. Which is, week in and week out in college football, you're gonna have some different challenges, but they present a serious one on that side.
Getting on the road for the first time too, I guess how do you approach it with the guys with the longer extended period here between games? And just the impact that you guys need to make right now with the Big Ten game right out of the chute here.
Yeah, so you guys be able to start fast. Our routine on the week, whether we're on home or away, doesn't change a ton. We'll be back to our practice starting tomorrow. Those 3 practices will be very similar. Now, we might pump in a little crowd noise for the offense versus the defense like we did when we played at home. Our approach on Fridays before we travel, we try to get some work done, meetings-wise and things before we get on the airplane, and then try to get a good night's rest on the routine. Start Big Ten play, again, our approach can't totally change, and it really won't. Big Ten game or this opponent, that type of thing, we're sticking to a process and looking forward to getting another opportunity.
John, I'm wondering, you talked about Maryland's offense a little bit. They didn't, I don't know if it was a shutout, maybe a lot one, but just defensively, what did you notice from those guys?
They returned a bunch of players that had played last year. I think the veteran defensive front, got a couple of safeties that can run and make plays, that transfer a corner. They got some challenges there. And they won handily last week. I think they gave up 7, and so it's a good outfit.
Is it a deal where you have to prepare for both quarterbacks? I know both played, the one got hit though, but is it a deal where this week you just have to be ready?
Yeah, you gotta kind of be ready for both. Again, both of them have skill set to be able to run the ball and do some things, so we're counting on seeing both of them.
Just, I was wondering, like, your weekly prep, I know you got 3 Friday games this year, but typically, your off day, you come back on Saturday game and you practice Sunday, or and then Monday off. I was just wondering just what your thought process is behind that. Is it something you picked up from?
Yeah, I've kind of always liked to, really emphasis on, we got to correct and improve, and so just taking the day on Sunday after the game to make an emphasis on getting things fixed right away. I'm a believer in, the off day for the player on Monday. Businesses are open, school, they can see a teacher, get a haircut, that kind of thing. Like the full day allowed for the coaches on the game planning side, and so we've been doing that for a while.
Just following up a little bit more, I guess, on details of the injuries, upper body, lower body, can you tell us what cases?
Yep, so Dylan and Khalid are lower body, and Alante is upper body.
Anything else, Coach? All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.